Well, thanks for staying with us on the marketplace. In our first story this afternoon, growth rate for the second quarter of this year recorded an increase to 5.7%. This growth includes the oil sector, whilst growth without oil recorded at 4.3%. Data released by the Ghana Statistical Service shows a decline in the economic growth of non-oil sector despite government policies to improve the sector. The services sector recorded the highest rate, followed by industry and agriculture respectively. Here is government statistician Professor Kofer announcing the GDP results to journalists in Accra.
The second quarter of 2019 and second quarter of 2018 for current GDP oil and current GDP non-oil, we see that there has been an increase from 72,500.4 million to 84,126.1 million. And this has to do with current GDP with oil inclusive. For current GDP with non-oil inclusive, there has been an increase from 69,890.5 to 81,353.6 million Ghana cedis. In terms of sectoral distribution, the services sector continues to drive the economy with a value of 38,715, constituting 49%, followed by the industry sector, which has 27,998.5 million Ghana cedis, constituting 36.0%, and the agricultural sector contributing 12,080.10 million Ghana cedis, which constitutes 15% of the share of GDP. These distributions are done based on basic prices. So in comparison with the figure that we talked about, purchases value earlier on, in terms of basic prices, if you sum the various sectors at basic prices, we get 78,793.5 million Ghana cedis. Looking at the variations in terms of growth rates over the period, for oil GDP, we move from, that is in real terms, at constant prices, we've moved from 37,804.9 to 39,952.6 million Ghana cedis. This corresponds to a 5.7% change. That is comparing the second quarter of 2018 to the second quarter of 2019. It is important to relate this to what happened between the second quarter of 2017 and the second quarter of 2018. For the second quarter of 2017 and the second quarter of 2018, there was an increase of 5.4%. So relatively, we've moved from 5.4% between 2017 and 2018 in terms of the second quarter to 5.7% between 2018 and 2019, again with reference to the second quarter. So there is a differential of 0.3%.
Meanwhile, year-on-year inflation for the month of August declined to 7.8%. The drivers for August inflation were alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and narcotics. Here's a government statistician again, Professor Kofer.
This means that the annual year-on-year inflation rate for August 2019 is 7.8, and I put emphasis on the fact that we are not reporting monthly changes because this is the first time we are doing the rebasing, so there wouldn't be any basis to report on the monthly changes. Literally, this means that in the month of August, there's a change in the general price level by 7.8% higher than the prices in August 2018. To reiterate the point, this 7.8 that we are announcing cannot be compared with previous inflation rates, and that is based on the context that we gave earlier on. We move on to the disaggregation, and as I indicated earlier on, the disaggregation is done by food inflation and non-food inflation, and the 7.8 that we are recording for August 2019 is mainly driven by food inflation, and the differential between food inflation and non-food inflation is 0.8%. Another disaggregation that we do is by locally produced items and imported items, and the differential inflationary rate is 0.3%, with locally produced inflation being 7.9% and imported items recording 7.6%. Inflation is largely driven by alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and narcotics, which records 12.9%, and the least of this is insurance and financial services. Further disaggregation based on the food inflation indicates that fruit and nuts category is driving food inflation with a rate of 25.2, and the least being fish and other seafood, recording the least of 6.3%. For non-food inflation is mainly driven, as I indicated earlier on, by alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and narcotics, recording 12.9%, as was mentioned earlier on, and insurance and financial services, recording 0.3%.
Those were bits of the address by government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna. Let's move away from that. And 2 years into the financial sector cleanup, and the trickle-down effect is not just felt on many losing their status of employment, but what is interesting is that the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, GREDA, also says occupancy rate for properties has dropped by some 20%. Commercial properties seem to be the hardest hit, with most of them being empty as far back as 2 years. President of the association, Samuel Amegaibo, is expressing fears though the numbers for empty properties have increased, prices will not come down. Odilia Ntiamwe's report.
The financial sector and housing are bedmates, especially when it comes to mortgage. Well, the Bank of Ghana says the financial sector cleanup is actually over, but the reforms aren't. So what has been the resultant effect of the banking sector cleanup on basically property? So if you had a property today and some financial institutions were renting it for their operations, exactly what have you been doing with this property after so many of them have gone down? I'm around Circle, where I spotted a property which was initially occupied by the Beige Bank. My investigations indicate the property has been vacant since the bank went down. I wanted to find out how much is going for.
It's going for 700 US.
It's going for 700 USD. Just about 300 meters away from the Beige Bank are two other properties. UHI Holdings and the subsidiary Savings and Loans Company had issues in 2017 and folded up in 2018, leaving this building vacant. At the time of our reports, calls were placed, did not go through. The other property was going for 10,000 Ghana cedis a month. I am standing in front of your building around the traffic lights there, and I wanted to find out how much is going for.
Oh, okay. It's 5 office rooms with one big conference hall.
Okay.
And the place is equipped with air conditions and fans.
Okay.
And it has a blanketed internet service. That's in a router with adapters fixed in all the rooms.
Okay.
And it's going to 10,000 Ghana cedis a month. It's basically the whole of the ground floor.
Okay, so how much is it going for?
10,000 Ghana cedis a month.
10,000 Ghana cedis a month. GREDA says occupancy has reduced as much as 20%, but this is not driving down prices.
Personally had interaction with some of our members, and they keep telling me that the occupancy rate is getting higher. In the past, let's say last year, people will say the occupancy rate is around 70–80%, but today they will be telling you it's around 60%, and they are not recording better sales lately as well, which tells you that it seems to be dipping.
President of GREDA, Samuel Amegaibo, says it's time property companies listed on the Ghanaian bourse. Ghana does not have any listed property company on the stock exchange. The only one which tried, that's Comet Properties, did not go beyond 6 months. The Ghana Real Estate Development Association adds they had simply not been able to meet requirements of the GSA. Perhaps starting at the Ghana alternative markets as gas will be the way to go.
So you may have your building in a serene environment on a good plot of land with all the required essentials or the essentials for a good home, but the wrong building blocks can cause your house to collapse. To prevent this, Supersem Cement, the latest addition to Ghana's manufacturing companies, will be at this year's JoyNews Habitat Fair. Karen Dodu has more in this report.
CBI Ghana Limited, producers of Supersem, was set up to boost Ghana's construction industry with the building of its ultra-modern power plant to produce high-quality cement in 2017. The company has met its vision of producing about 1 million tons of cement in March 2018. With the vision of being the premium brand providing the most valuable and affordable cement-related solutions to Ghanaian builders by 2020, Supersem promises to deliver valuable products for the Ghanaian market. Kobe Adams is commercial director of Supersem Cement.
But already in any place in Accra, starting from Kaswa all the way out to Dawenya and Ningo Pram, all the way up north, to the north of Accra, Damfa, Wibi, Dodowa, you can find the Supersem brand available in several shops. A couple of months ago, we began a regional expansion. So starting pretty much from the middle of August, people would have begun to see us a little bit more in Kumasi and Brongahafo, and also in the eastern region.
Aiming at boosting cement supply for consumers with competitive pricing, Kobe Adams explains that patrons of the fair will enjoy cool discount prices.
So we're at the fair, we're literally engaging people one-on-one, but to take away some of the barriers to trial, we're also giving coupons at the fair. We did this at Wager and a little bit at Achimota as well. An opportunity for people to buy our cement at a price that is absolutely insane anywhere in Ghana. For 30 cedis, with a coupon at the fair, people can get a bag of Supersem. And what we saw at Wager was that, people took those, and we had some people buy whole trucks.
The 2019 edition of the JoyNews Habitat Fair will take place at the Accra International Conference Centre from Friday, September 20 to Sunday, September 22. The fair opens 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily.
You're watching The Marketplace. Let's move on to other stories. London-based Economist Intelligence Unit has warned that a new pricing mechanism for cocoa farmers could rather worsen their plight. There's more in this report.
Economist Intelligence Unit EIU argues that the proposal to have a new pricing mechanism for cocoa purchase is good. However, it maintains that the initiative in the medium term would hurt the industry. This is because the initiative will lead to improved supply and developments that could bring about some serious price distortions. The EIU is also worried about whether the two countries, that's Ghana and Ivory Coast, have been able to secure the required commitment from buyers for this deal. The Reuters news agency recently reported that the two countries have agreed to sell cocoa beans with a living income premium of $400 a ton. This is in addition to the agreed floor price of $2,600 a ton. The move, we understand, is part of plans to reform the way global cocoa is priced. Cocoa Board, together with their counterparts in the Ivory Coast, has proposed to sell each ton of cocoa beans not less than $2,600 a ton for the 2020-2021 crop season. The two countries currently control about 65% of the world market. Cocoa Board has disclosed that it would announce the price it plans to buy each ton of cocoa beans on October 1 this year for the next crop season. The board has also revised its production target to about 800,000 metric tons.
All right, now the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana says disturbing developments in the Gulf region and Saudi Arabia should serve as a catalyst to reposition the bulk storage and transportation company. It is calling for the activation of strategic stock holding and development of fuel transmission pipelines. Joining us with more on this is Executive Secretary of Kofer Ghana, Duncan Alma. Thanks for your time this afternoon. So tell us a bit more about why we should be paying attention to BOST at this time.
Let me say good afternoon to you and to your viewers. BOST clearly had a certain underlying understanding for setup somewhere in the early 90s, one of which was critically to hold a national strategic stock for the country. In times of difficulty, we should be able to at least keep the economy and the country running for quite some time before possibly grinding to a halt. Unfortunately, it doesn't look as though that mandate is being lived to expectation. Our checks recently indicate that we do not even have a single liter of strategic stock. And if you look at current development in the Gulf region, the impression you get is that if there is supposed to be any escalation whatsoever of tensions in the Gulf as far as the United States-Iran issues are concerned, then one would ask, would Ghana be able to sustain itself for a number of days or weeks before a complete shutdown? The answer currently will be a big no, and we think that this is the right time for us to reposition the National Strategic Buffer Holding Company board such that we can now begin to keep stock, at least for the purpose of getting the country up and running.
But what do you see as the major challenge for BOS right now? As you indicate, successive managements have tried different plans, and in your statement you say there appears to be a loss of focus.
Clearly, if you look at the bulk oil storage and transportation, one expects that we would have at least some bulk oil to store, and then also to develop efficient transportation network. You talk of power barges or water barges, you talk of railway, you talk of road network, you talk of pipelines critically to move products from one part of the country to another part. Unfortunately, we do not see BOS pursuing this mandate as Ghanaians would expect. And so we think that if BOS would also be refocused to invest a little more in even pipeline systems, so that this issue of accidents on our roads, the issue of pressure on our roads as far as transporting fuel to other parts of the country using the bulk road vehicles or the big trucks, at least could be minimized. The issue of fuel diversion, the issue of fuel theft could equally be minimized. It doesn't look as though we are also investing much in the transportation of fuel across the country as far as pipeline systems are concerned. So BOS would need
all these you mentioned, Duncan, all these take
immediately if the country is to have some relief from the setting up of BOS altogether.
All these take monies to fix, right? And BOS has also had to grapple with financial challenges. How do they get around that?
That is the more reason we had indicated the national security setup should look at this as a security concern. Mind you, fuel security is one of the key parameters for assessing whether a country is prepared to stand on its own in times of crisis. Unfortunately, if you look at the current state of BOS, it looks as though we may need to invest a little more in there. If you look at the fact that their tanks, for the last time we had any visits to their depots, would need some major maintenance works to be carried out on them after 20 years of operationalization. It doesn't look as though we are giving the needed attention to BOS, right, as far as getting it to serve the purpose for which Ghanaians expect it to serve all of us.
Right, thank you very much. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of Kofer Ghana. As part of it, we are asking that the National Security Council should not delay in activating BOS strategic stockholding mandate. Thanks very much for your time this afternoon. Well, finally, the Community Water and Sanitation Agency is adopting a business model to guide and manage its operations to ensure sustainability. Officials say the move is intended to reduce what they call non-revenue water loss, which currently stands at 43%. Chief Executive Engineer Wolanyo Fiabi says the business model will also enhance human resource capacities to meet skill requirements for the reform. Prince Apia has more in this report.
According to the agency, non-revenue water loss has reduced from 60% to current 43% in 2018, which officials say is still not good for business. Chief Executive Engineer Wolanyo Fiabi, he says the new model will see the agency explore financial management risk and establish appropriate control mechanisms.
There is something we call in water management, we call it non-revenue water. And as part of the business we are developing, we are targeting reducing non-revenue water. It's scary. When we started, it was around 60%. What it means is that when we provide, let's say, 100 cubic meters of water, we are unable to determine where 60 cubic meters has passed. So we have only 40 cubic meters to sell to communities. Eventually, the cost will be high. Therefore, we are trying to reduce this level. So we are trying to go business so that we can be sustainable. It does not imply that the cost of water to communities will be high. No. What we are trying to do is to look at our operations in a business way, so our operational costs can go down, so that the cost of water will also go down.
The Community Water Sanitation Agency is therefore engaging Ghana Water Company to streamline activities to improve its business services ahead of becoming utility operator. Officials say the agency would explore technological and innovative approaches to improve water production and efficiency. Board Chairman Parkwesi Yankee envisages significant reduction in cost of water for consumers.
Ghana Water Company's limited pricing has a built-in non-revenue water. So when we get water from them, we also build in some non-revenue costs into our costs. The discussion that we are having with Ghana Water Company and the committee that we've set up between the two agencies, we're going to try and level up this non-revenue water so that our pricing would also go down. What we realize is that our rural folks are paying more for water than what is being paid in the cities and in the urban area, which you and I know it shouldn't be the case.
Meanwhile, officials have reviewed plans to sign performance contracts for enhanced operations at all levels. These were agreed at a stakeholder forum in Kumasi. Prince Apia reporting.
And this has been The Marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Thanks for watching.